Hello, all, and welcome to the UEFA Dynasty League podcast. I'm your host, Erik, and I'm here for the first time in a long time. We kind of quit these podcasts after the first few weeks of the season, and that was a bit unfortunate, but life gets busy. But we are here back to talk about our initial day of the draft, which started off a little slow, but a lot of trades going on. So, all in all, I think a good day for the league. Let me introduce everybody else I have here with me. First, I'd like to introduce your other commissioner of the league as well, Matt of Tottenham. How you doing, Matt?
Doing great, Erik. Thank you very much. Good to be here, boys.
We're happy to have you. Next, I'd like to introduce our regular co-host who is blessed us with his presence almost on every single one, Fred of Hercules. How you doing, Fred?
Doing pretty good. Haven't left the house in something like 3 or 4 years now, and I don't miss it. This is as social as I ever need to be.
Well, I'm glad that you can be social with us. We certainly love it. And lastly, I'd like to introduce a close friend of mine. He is the owner of Arsenal, and his name is Billy Tully. How you doing, Bill?
Good, Erik. Happy to be here. I think this podcast is a great thing for the league, and I'm just excited to get down to it.
Okay, so now that we got the introductions out of the way, I wanted to start by talking about the Aaron Jones sweepstakes that I've been running, kind of to promote the draft. If you guys don't know what a sweepstakes is, if you haven't seen me post about it 100 times, basically I let people submit blindly, and I'll rank the orders or whoever's running the sweepstakes. And at the end of the day, I'll accept the best offer. It was a lot of fun. For a while, Fred was in the lead, and I think, Fred, would you agree your offer wasn't really that great?
My offer was not acceptable if I owned Aaron Jones, but it was a thrill to be on top for a day and a half or whatever it was. I'm glad other people stepped up to the plate.
Yeah, so maybe I didn't do maybe I did too long of a sweepstakes, but it still worked out in the end. It was a close race between Newcastle and Sassuolo in the end, and I actually so Newcastle was in the lead for pretty much the rest of the trip, and then Sassuolo sent his offer at midnight on the night before, and I slept on it. I didn't know who to put in first. I didn't even post any rankings. I waited till the next morning, slept on it, and I went with Sassuolo. So it was real close, and I wound up going with giving up Aaron Jones, Stephon Diggs, Gardner Minshew, and the 117 in our draft, which is kind of like the 6th pick or something around there. And in return, I got Dak Prescott, Devontae Adams, and I also got Devonta Freeman, free agent Devonta Freeman. So I was happy with the return. I personally got 2 of my favorite players in Dak Prescott, who I'm wearing his jersey right now, Devonta Adams, whose jersey is over there. So, yeah, I got 2 guys I love. What did you guys think about the deal?
I would be interested to find out what the offer was that would have won had he not come over the top and beat you out. Is he willing to share? Like if it's going to be so bad, are you going to take that deal just because you said you would?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, there wasn't really a threshold on the deal, so if it was just garbage, you're going to accept the best deal you got, right? So were you going to stick true to your word? Had that taken place?
Yeah, so Keegan was in second. I would have accepted Keegan's deal if it was just a regular trade offer. I wouldn't even send a counter. That's how good his offer was. It just got blown over the top by Sassuolo's. So in that case, like I think it was, I don't know if it was late Saturday or Sunday when Newcastle submitted his, and I was like, fuck yeah, this sweepstakes is worth it. And then Sassuolo came in late.
So to answer your question, I know you just said you're a big Dak guy for whatever reason I can't figure out. So
QB2 last year.
So we traded last year, my first round pick for Andy Dalton, which whatever. How are you going to feel when Dalton actually takes over? When you find out that Prescott a fraud halfway through the year.
Bill, he was QB2 in fantasy points last year?
Don't want to hear that.
Okay, a valid point.
That's how you feel when Dalton takes over. That's what I'm asking. Am I asking about stats?
I own Dak Prescott's in a lot of leagues, so I'd be fucking devastated.
Dak Prescott's. Okay, you can't say his name right, but you love him so much.
Yes. Well, let's get an unbiased opinion here from a non-Giants fan. Fred, what did you think about the deal?
It's fair.
Yeah, I think you got a nice return there for your little Aaron Jones. you give up a unproven rookie quarterback. You give up a proven receiver, but maybe in a bad situation. And I think you got both the best two players in the deal. So you gave up a nice draft pick as well, but we'll see who that turns into in the end.
Sure. And we do have a guest commentator here. The real DK wants to let us know Dalton does have being white going for him. Jerry loves that.
There it is. There it is.
Okay, so I just wanted to talk about the sweepstakes. I think it was fun. Anyone's welcome to run theirs. Just make sure the stipulations are clear because people don't like it if you run one and the rules aren't clear and you back out. So if you're going to do it, make sure you're dedicated to it. But moving on to the next topic of discussion, we have Billy here who wants to talk about a particular league member's trades from today.
I do. I do. And Harvard Calcio, which you guys may not know, is Anthony Bear, close friend of mine. Idiot, close friend of mine. This is his got to be fourth dynasty league that I'm in with him. I was telling Eric before we're in a group chat by ourselves with a couple other people. Matt's in it. I was telling them, wow, that was crazy. Both trades, that was crazy. And I said the Bayer effect is already prevalent. And Eric asked what I meant by that. This is, like I said, the fourth dynasty league that I've owned with my friend Anthony. Let's get real, guys. We all saw these trades. Come on.
Okay, well, hold on. I understand you don't like the trades he made. And
I know. You want me to do the Bayer effect? Okay.
No. Before you do the Bayer effect, let's let everyone know what the trades were.
Yeah, which trade are you talking about?
Both. I hated both.
Which were?
Trading away Hopkins, trading for Barkley. Which, of course, I love Barkley. What he gave up for Barkley was out of control.
Okay, well, let's get the trades up, Fred. Do you have them up? Because I have them.
Go ahead. I'm pulling them up right now.
So the trades that Billy is talking to right now, Parma Calcio, Anthony Bayer gave up DeAndre Hopkins, and Aston Villa gave up in return Leonard Fournette, the 140 of this year, and the 2021 first-round pick of Aston Villa. So, Bill, what do you think? Do you think he didn't get enough for Hopkins in that deal?
I'm not a Fournette guy. I've been very, very honest with that in past couple of years that we've been talking, Eric, with other dynasty leagues. And just knowing him, I know he's going to blow the two picks. I think it's insane. And I just don't think that the risk of those two picks and Fournette, who has, again, been very injury-prone, suspension-prone, is worth the wait. I don't get it. I don't think it's worth the risk. I think it's silly. I will talk about more about the second pick. You can put that up. Again, this pick is very, very straightforward. Like I said what I said.
The second trade? Well, hold on. Before we move on, the Leonard Fournette thing, one of the problems with Leonard Fournette is that he's kind of in the outs of Jaguar. He doesn't have a true home.
He does not. And it's dangerous. Who knows where he can go? It can screw him. It cannot. Hopkins has a home. And I'm not the biggest fan of Kyler Murray, but it's hard to fuck up that offense right now. And I think no matter where Hopkins goes, he's going to be a star. We saw that with TJ Yates. So with Case Keenum, we're going to see it again.
Okay. So, yeah, I would agree with you. I think he could have got a little more for Hopkins, but I don't think that was the worst trade. I think this trade, he gave up a little more value.
Yes.
And I'm just going to quickly go over it. Thanks, Fred, for pulling it up. The trade, Parma Calcio received Saquon Barkley and future star Patrick Laird, and he gave up Melvin Gordon, Philip Lindsay, Kenny Galladay, the 209 in this year's draft, and two 2021 first-round picks. I think one of the ones he received in the last trade and his own. Bill, what do you hate about this trade the most?
I honestly don't think I need to explain about what I hate about this. I think anyone should look at this and go, oh my. I mean, I saw some people in the chat. I know in the chat we said, hey, don't be mean about this or that. I mean, come on. Look at this thing. This is a disaster from top to bottom. I think Barkley is the second and third best back in the league. Okay. 2 firsts next year. Kenny Galladay. Phil Lindsay, who could be potentially a star after he leaves Denver. And Melvin Gordon, who's a touchdown machine. Patrick Laird, come on. Really? Get him out of here. It's Barkley for everybody else. And
All
I
right.
think-
Do
Go
we
ahead.
have any bead on where those 2020 firsts are going to be? Are they
That's the
high? Are they
thing.
low?
Yeah.
Because if they're middle or back end, Gordon's a second round pick. Lindsey's maybe a late second round pick. There's a second round pick involved. Kenny Galladay and 2 firsts. I mean, Galladay's worth a lot, but
agree.
this
I agree.
seems like what it would take for a Barkley owner to give him up.
You don't think it's very, very expensive Saquon Barkley?
I think this is a trade that I would think about if I owned Barkley, and I would have to say, does that make sense for my team with what I'm doing this year or not? It's not a slam dunk by any means.
The biggest detriment is Gordon and Lindsey kind of eating into each other this year. I think if they were still on separate teams, this is, I think, a perfectly fine return.
I understand that, but Lindsey's going to leave, and we know that. And we see what he's done. There's a lot of potential in him. When he leaves,
that's a
for him.
risk, betting on a aging running back who's switching teams.
Yeah, and since those 2021 first, one's Aston Villa, who had a great season last year, and I think he's poised for another great one after adding DeAndre Hopkins. And then the other first is Parma-Calcios, who, like Billy's pointed out, he likes to make a lot of trades, and sometimes they don't work out. So that first might be better. Okay, well, we talked about the Bayer effect there. Billy really doesn't like Parma-Calcios, but Fred offered a little defense for him there. Fred, do you have any other offers that stuck out or trades that really you think need to be discussed?
There's a couple here I think that are worth discussing. Let's see if I can pull one up here. How about this?
The one that I kind of thought was super interesting, and I don't want to hopefully take from you, but Hanover acquiring Derek Carr for N'Keal Harry and a couple mid and late second round picks. That's going to be a really good deal for him if Carr has a solid season and kind of cements himself back there in Vegas, I suppose it is now. I really like that deal for him.
Okay, and just to be clear on that trade, Hanover received Derek Carr from Roma, and Roma received N'Keal Harry and 2 second-round picks, 233 and 246.
I like that a lot. I do agree with Matt there.
You like it for which side? The Derek Carr side?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
I think Derek Carr's a 1 year, maybe less than 1 year rental. He's not going to be starting for that team the entire season, and he's going to be on a new team next year. Whether it means he's a starter on that new team remains to be seen.
But do you think Mariota takes over for him at some point this year?
Absolutely, yeah.
And
I think it's almost.
They almost have to.
It's just going to be a short leash for Carr. They lose a couple games. It looks like they're getting steamrolled, and he's not doing what Gruden wants him to do. Then they're gonna pull the plug and make that switch and see if Mariota can learn from what Tannehill did to him last year.
Okay. And the way I see this trade, N'Keal Harry 2 seconds, I'm not giving up N'Keal Harry as a first-round pick plus 2 seconds for Derek Carr when you could have got Matt Ryan for a first and a second. So I really think Hanover is almost giving up on N'Keal Harry, saying, I don't see him more as a role receiver. Whereas me as being a N'Keal Harry owner in this league as well, I think the potential is huge. I think he's going to blow up this year, and that's why I take Roma's side on this, because he has the potential to be the number one receiver. Again, no Tom Brady, but it's a Belichick system. I think it's going to work out eventually.
And I agree with that, and I get that. This may be very short-sighted. Next year, the Patriots, who knows what they're going with this year? It could be Hoyer. It could be a mistake. Next year, they could be far. So I agree with that.
Let's put N'Keal Harry into this year's draft, and he's not a first-round pick. So nobody's giving that up for him today. I mean, you're talking maybe like 2.4, 2.5, 2.6,
really
ish for a guy who's shown absolutely nothing. I want the player who I don't know anything about yet.
I disagree.
He was hurt, but I think players just have a hard time getting on the field in that system, and there's a lot for them to learn. I don't know that some players ever will. So I think an early-ish second and 2 late seconds for Derek Carr is a pretty fair trade.
Okay, yeah, and say I view him higher. I would put him in the tier with Jefferson and Rieger. And I'm not giving up on him yet.
But
yeah,
I understand that.
I mean, Jefferson's got the clear path to being the second receiver until Thielen's done. Rieger, that Philadelphia system, they don't produce receivers. They sign veterans. I still like Harry in that range. Again, I'm not saying he's better than them, but that's maybe right after them is where I take Harry.
Yeah, I just can't see anyone making that trade today for one of those two prospects.
Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, so Fred, you were about to bring up another trade, and I think you have the graphic ready.
Which one was that? The Drake trade?
Yes.
All right, let me pull it up.
I didn't see this trade, so
it was a really interesting.
I missed this one.
What do you call it? Receiver for a running back. Oh, wrong one. Hang on.
Yeah, and by the way, we're pulling up the graphics that Matt made in the group me, and they're awesome. We're absolutely
bravo, Matt. This is fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, Fred, go ahead. Introduce it.
Yeah, so Kenyon Drake and DJ Chark going from Napoli or going to Napoli, I guess. Is that what's happening, or is that who gave that up?
That's who's going to.
Okay, so he pulled receiver and a running back for two nobodies. Basically, it's draft picks. So two 2021 firsts and a second and two guys to move off of a roster. I think both these guys would sell for a 2020 first in this year's draft, maybe back end, but I think that's discounting them quite a bit to take that payment in next year's draft picks. So it's a pretty good deal if you want those players on your team for 2 years essentially. Yeah,
and I think DJ Chark is almost worth a middle. He had a great year. Kenyon Drake, they sold David Johnson, so I think they do believe in him too. So I happen to agree with you.
I've been a Kenyon Drake guy. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Please go ahead.
I think he's been short-circuited in Miami when he was there. Paces, in my opinion, a disaster. I think they really screwed him there. And then we get to see Drake's true colors. I think what he did in Arizona is what he's capable of all next year. I think Drake is a real first round weapon. For a high first round pick weapon. That's my opinion. I know it's far fetched. I get that. I think he's going
to have a hard time growing into that, but he will certainly have his opportunities this year as long as he can stay on the field. They want him to be the number one. So if that happens, then yeah, he's right there where you're saying.
Well, I think only getting Hopkins is always going to help, and only going to help him. It is. He did fantastic with just Fitz and Kirk last year as the 1-2. And I think a receiver like Hopkins is going to make any receiver good. I mean, Carlos Hyde last year was like a stud. And what's his name? I'm drawing a blank. Who was the other running
Johnson?
Back? Thank you.
Miller?
Okay, so to wrap up the trade segment, I want to bring up another trade that happened today, and it was between one of the co-hosts. Fred of Hercules gave up 133 and 147. In return, he got Cortland Sutton. So, Fred, talk us through this. Why did you think this is a good deal for your team?
I didn't actually make a graphic for this. I don't think a graphic exists for this. So this was offered to me last night. He was trying to get 2 higher first-round picks, and I countered with that, and came back to me at the end of the night and said, "Yeah, I'll accept that if you're still offering it." Basically, I think the back end of this draft is some very interesting lottery picks, and that late first round pick, is equivalent of 16 in this draft. So there's guys there that you want, but you have to have a plan for waiting out, letting these guys grow into what they're going to be. And Sutton's already that. I mean, Sutton maybe really more than that. We'll see. I think some people may be down on his value a little bit because it's crowded there now, but he's still the only one who's proven anything.
Can we put that graphic up?
I don't have it. It was before they were created. I gave up. I think it was picks 33 and 47 for Cortland Sutton. So 11 and 16 equivalents.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's a great deal for you, Fred. I know if people may not understand your makeup, you were one of the rebuilding teams, one of the few rebuilding teams where they acquired first round picks, and you kind of went the same route with me, where I was trading away the late ones and getting value for it when the draft hype is high.
Yeah, I look at it similar to what you did kind of to get Stephon Diggs. I think you gave up maybe not similar picks, but a similar idea.
Yep.
And when I saw that, I was like, oh, that makes sense. Should I look into maybe giving up some rookies to get a stud?
Yeah, I think it's a good starting point for your team. But now that we talked about the trades, I think we'd like to get into the draft, which has been slow, but you got to get the first picks right. So I don't blame anyone. Mike's got like 15 of them, so he's got to get them right too. But just to start off, there was a trade at the top of the draft right before it started. Mike of Udinese gave up 101. In return, he got 104 and Zach Charbonnet, the Michigan running back, and that was Deportivo, one of our new owners, Nick. And all of a sudden, after the draft broke out, we had Burrow go 101 and Taylor go 102, which essentially meant that Udinese kept the 101.
Yeah, that worked out perfectly for him. Fred, you're the other Michigan fan here, right? You're the goal up. He's ripping something up.
Unbelievable.
All right.
Unbelievable.
Nice.
Who
All right.
you guys with?
What
Unreal.
do you have any opinions on Charbonnet at all? Because I watched, plenty of Michigan football last year. I wasn't overly impressed with Charbonnet.
I couldn't have told you that he was on their team. I watch roughly one Michigan game a year, and that's just the first half of them losing to Ohio State.
Fuck.
Okay, well, after we'll discuss this trade. I would like to introduce our last co-host joining us. A little late putting down the kids, but he's here. It's Mike of Udinese, also known as the first round draft of the UEFA League. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, happy to join.
Were you waiting long? Because I didn't even see you waiting in the queue.
About 5 minutes. But it was good to be able to piss off, and say what everyone thinks about Arsenal anyway.
Okay,
All right, I think I've got the graphic ready for this trade. You can walk us through it, Mike.
No, so I'll keep it simple. I'd send probably about 5 or 6 offers out for the 101, and Deportivo was one of the first ones to get back to me. And Charbonnet was on the short list of freshman running backs that I really liked and looked like he was in a prime position to really pop. I'm not going to hold a true freshman year against a running back if he didn't jump out to blow everyone's minds. Okay, maybe he's not, a Nick Chubb, or he's not a Todd Gurley, one of these guys who just takes the role and never gives it back. But call coach speak, but Harbaugh said something like, we've got the best running back in the conference, things like that. So again, I'm not going to put total weight in that, but 5-star recruit, I believe, in a situation where they're going to want to pound the ball. I like the prospect. And I was able to move back to what I thought was going to be the 102, but considering what a cluster drafts are this year, that nobody has a consistent, this guy's the 101, this guy's the 102, I thought I could get Burrow 104, and I did.
Nice gamble.
Yeah.
And just to let you guys know, the gamble did work. And who Mike got, in my opinion, and I'm going to share this analysis with the league in a couple days. He got the second best Devy running back that we have so far in the league. He ran for 726 yards with 11 touchdowns on 149 rushes. He also had 8 receptions for 38 yards. He's probably going to be one of the main backs next year in Michigan.
Yeah, I think he absolutely goes over 1,000 next year, and I think he busts out. Again, I could be wrong, and who knows? But that's the fun part of Devy. You never know.
Yeah, I think that's the great idea with fluctuating values. You can really get some guys who get traded, maybe 7 or 8 times throughout their college careers, because somebody believes in them or because they have a good week or good season, and then who knows what will happen the following year. I mean, that's 4 years is a long time. 3 years in some cases.
Yeah. So now that we talked about that trade, I'd like to move into the draft a little bit more. So we did have Deportivo, who took the 101 Burrow, and then we had I forget who took Taylor with the 102. Who was it? It was Mr. Donnie. I like to talk about every single player in the draft.
Atlanta?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then after that, we did have the last 2 Burrow copies go to Mr. Evan, who was sleeping all day, and then Mike got the last Burrow at 104. So things really spiced up after that, and I think that's really where our analysis has to focus. And so we had a Jonathan Taylor copy go to Justin of Hanover at 105. Jorge of Real Madrid takes Tua at 106 instead of the 3rd Taylor copy. And then Fiorentina takes CeeDee Lamb 107, which was not anticipated at all. Let's start with the I think Hanover's Jonathan Taylor pick is pretty chalk. Let's start off with Jorge's decision to go Tua. And I'll let Mike start off. You think that's a need-based pick? I'm going to look at his quarterbacks real quick. It's Jared Goff and Alex Smith.
I think it's a need-based pick, but I think when you're taking a conversation between Tua and Burrow, and frankly, it's one of those where I was actually looking to move back from the 104 because I would have been just as happy with Tua as I would have been with Burrow. I forget, it's one of the podcasts I listened to. Burrow has the higher floor based off of the sheer amount of weapons he has and potentially the situation he walks into in Cincinnati. But the ceiling is all Tua. Like, remember, this was tank for Tua all year. This has been tank for Tua for 2 years, basically saying, hey, Tua is the prize of the 2020 draft. And now all of a sudden, Burrow goes ahead of him because of one, again, monumental but very good season. I mean, I could absolutely see, arguments being made that Tua is a more desirable quarterback than Burrow next year. It's just a question of, take it back to, I don't know, maybe like 10, 11 years ago when it was Dalton versus Kaepernick in the second round. Kaepernick absolutely had the higher ceiling, but Dalton was going to be the higher floor. So maybe that's how it ends up here. Who knows? But I absolutely think that I don't fault any team that needs a quarterback coming out of the top couple picks with Tua Tagovailoa.
Bill, what do you think? Do you think George reached to get Tua, or do you agree that it was a good pick?
I am a Herbert guy over Tua. I get the quarterback pick, 100%. I do. I get it, and I think he needed one. I do. I personally go Herbert. I've loved Herbert since last year. If he came out, that's who I want it. Going off what Mike said, it's been tank for Tua for 2 years. 2 years, yeah, you're right, and it has been that big deal for 2 years ever since he came in. He was a monster in the championship game, etc. That hip injury is a big deal. A lot of people like to say that it's not, but it was. It was huge, and I just can't get behind a young quarterback like this who. One of the biggest stats I saw as far as Tua, he had the separation he had per receiver. I'm trying to explain this correctly. I can't say exactly what the seconds were. But the separation that his receivers had against the quarterbacks that they were playing on average was out of control. I mean, Eric Myers would have been a good quarterback at Alabama.
I don't know about that.
And I just think Herbert's arm accuracy is a little bit there. I get that. But I think that Herbert was the better quarterback. I like the quarterback pick there, 100%. I think Tua was the guy.
Do you think
Herbert's the better quarterback than Tua?
Do you really?
I think in the NFL he will be. Yes.
So
okay, but getting back to the draft, if you're at that point, you don't take Herbert.
You mean at with Real Madrid?
Yeah, 1-6, 1-8, 1-9. You can't.
This is my opinion.
I understand your opinion, but if you had 106, you would be trading down. You wouldn't be taking Herbert.
I would be trading down because I don't think Herbert is as valued as Tua is. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can have your opinion on which one you think is a better NFL quarterback, but I think we were asking about this particular pick at this value in the draft.
All right, I get quarterback. I don't like. Man, it's tough to. I get your point. I do get your point, and you got me tied up there, and I know you do. I know you do. I get your point. I don't like Tua at 6. Quarterback at 6. I don't like Tua at 6.
Okay.
The thing about the injury to me is that we're all kind of playing armchair, and
that's fact. Yeah.
Miami did take him at 105, so or it was 5, right? So it was anyway. It was in their range where their pick was.
Yeah.
So they seem satisfied that injury is not going to be a long-term concern.
Again, this is all about opinion. All of us. I mean, honestly,
Hey, you know what, Matt? What do you think about Tua? Do you think it was a good decision by George here?
What I think is that this conversation for the past 5 minutes is eerily similar to when Anderson Cooper was interviewing that Las Vegas mayor on TV, and Cooper was just saying like one thing and then letting her spiral out of control. Reminds me of that. I love the Tua pick. It fills a need. It was the right spot to take the guy. There isn't a ton to it, I don't think. I mean, I don't think Taylor's a slam dunk over Tua, who went a couple picks after him. No, Tua all the way.
Yeah, and this is a guy that replaced the starting Alabama quarterback for the entire year in Jalen Hurts, and then outshined him in the championship, which then Jalen Hurts retired. And Jalen Hurts got drafted in the 2nd round, so he's not that bad of a quarterback.
So I will come back to what was being said. Look, this is complete unknown in terms of this injury. Nobody has got. It's kind of like the Achilles injury a couple years back. Like nobody had successfully returned to be a productive NFL player from, I believe it was an Achilles injury, until it happened. So it's one of those things that no one has ever had this injury and returned to a productive NFL career. So from one side, I completely get the heightened risk from this. The other side, you'd hope that a team that has gone as all in on picks as the Dolphins had did their homework. Did they? Again, I hope so, especially considering the COVID situation right now, but you're never quite sure. So again, if Tua has a chance of recovering within the next 18 months, this is a great pick at 5 for the Dolphins and a great pick here. If the Dolphins really just screwed this up, which I'm not going to put past them.
Yeah, no, and listen, I get your point there. It's not all about the injury to me. Again, like I said, I can find the article if you guys want me to send it to you in this chat.
Yeah, send it to the whole league.
I will after this. The separation that he had at Alabama was unheard of.
Yeah.
It was just, again, it could be like he still is that good. And it's not his fault the separation was that good. And it could be wrong. Who knows? You know what?
Okay,
I could be an idiot. In a year, next year, I could be a big giant idiot right now.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Well, there was a bunch of injury concern during the draft, and not everyone was sold on him, even going in the first round because of the injury. So it's definitely something to consider, even though Billy doesn't believe in his QB talent in general. But just moving back to the draft here, if you skip the next pick, Tua was the next 2 picks. RB Leipzig completes the Tagovailoa duo. He has both his younger brother who just transferred to Maryland and the older brother who just got drafted by Miami. But in between, we have the most puzzling draft pick that I have seen in all my rookie drafts this year, and that is Fiorentina taking CeeDee Lamb at essentially the 2nd pick because everybody besides Burrow was available. And let's start the other way around, Matt. There's no way that he should have took Lamb here, right? He had to trade back.
Yeah, trade back makes sense. I'm trying to piece together the whole draft process, and was maybe he trying to create some, I don't know, some trade chatter for himself because he was picking 2 spots later at 109. So maybe I don't know, but I'm looking at his team right now. Really deep at wide receiver, I believe. Absolutely nothing at running back. Yeah, it was an odd one for sure.
Yeah, I think you go back to take one of Mike's picks, 10, 12, and you take any third round pick that you can get along with it to make that drop, or anything at all. If you know you're going to get Lamb later, or you know what, just fuck it. Take the running back. Take either one of the two running backs, and friggin' trade him for CeeDee Lamb a week from now.
Yeah.
So that's the interesting part of this. So without going too much into baseball here, I had offered for these picks. So obviously, because again I was sending stuff out there, and I got just immediate declines. So he clearly wanted to kind of stick and pick here first off. So I get that. Second, I know a couple of us are in GMs, which is 32 team single copy, and you saw a situation where receivers were going ahead of these top running backs. Now, this isn't as QB desperate as that league is, but I can see a situation where he thought he was potentially jump-starting a run on receivers because in that league, you had the three quarterbacks go off the board first, then Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then Judy jumped before any of the other running backs, and then Lamb jumped before next set of running backs. So basically, it seemed like he was certain he wanted to come out of this with two things, Lamb and Tua, and thought if I could potentially jumpstart a run here at 107, maybe I can trade back from the 109 to say 111 and still get Tua. So I understand it from the game theory aspect of it. I just think he could have done it a little bit more effectively if he said, like you guys said, maybe if I take CEH or take, the last Taylor or something like that, then I can get my trade back and still get the guys I want.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that highlights our point. There was definitely some value to be had. I do appreciate a guy sticking to his pick and taking his guy, but in this case, I don't think it was the wise move. But moving later into the draft after the Tua picks, it's mostly Mike, so Mike can talk about him more in length. He took the last copy of Taylor. After that, all the copies of Edwards-Helaire went first to Batiste, then to Mike Udinese, and then Juventus. And then Mike, next on the clock, takes the first copy of J.K. Dobbins. Let's start with you, Mike. Were these cut and dry?
Yeah, so look, CEH is probably going to be the top rookie running back in next year in terms of performance. Makes perfect sense for him to go forward. He's landing in the best spot and likely going to get the volume and the looks that you want to be able to produce in year one. That said, I've already moved my copy of CEH because I don't believe in him long term. I think he's a one-year wonder. I appreciate that he was able to hold off the backs that are still at LSU, but I, don't believe in the guy. So I just understand the value he has. Hence, the trade that's up here right now, and moving back to basically 109 and a 110 for my 104 copy of him. So I understand the allure. I just don't think he's got the staying power to really, stand up with the other big backs in this class.
So before we discuss this, actually, let's since we got Mike's opinion, what do you guys feel in this league and Superflex leagues in general about the order that the players went in? Do you think it was correct that both the quarterbacks went ahead of both of the top two running backs, or would you have done it differently? Would you have expected to see it more mixed up than that?
I'm sorry, I jumped in front of you. This is my first Superflex league. I always hated them. I've always been against them. And after last year, waiting forever, I had a good roster, waiting forever to get my first quarterback with Tom Brady, and then having to give up my soul for Andy Dalton, benched eventually. Absolutely, it's worth it. 100% worth it. If I had that second quarterback going forward, I would have been a lot higher than fourth. in the league. I 100% going quarterbacks that early over and over again. I definitely undervalued the value of a quarterback in a Superflex league.
Yeah, but Bill, and I understand that you're saying that, but imagine you're in a spot where you're taking like a 102 or a 103, like all the copies of Burrow are gone. You
Right.
don't like Tua, but you understand that QBs are important. Are you trading back and taking Herbert? Are you taking Tua and trying to trade him for another quarterback? Because we know. Yes, what would you do in that spot where you need a quarterback, right? So say you had that pick. Your team needs a quarterback. What are you doing? Are you taking Jonathan Taylor? Are you taking Tua?
Me personally, I'm probably trading back and going and hanging in there for Tua. I'm sorry, Tua. God, for Herbert. That's what I think I would do personally.
Right, and I'll offer the counterpoint, and I'm alongside Bill, not as adamantly that I'm not 100% sold on Tua yet as the heir apparent in Miami, and I'm taking Taylor and CEH. Not sure which order. I'm kind of in between on the two before Tua, and then I take Tua at the 4th in my super flex. That's my personal rankings on them, and it's just because the Tua injury is too scary. And Miami's kind of a shit show and always has been. Like Tannehill couldn't play there. He went to Tennessee and he looks great. So I'm kind of scared.
Was that Miami or was that Gaze?
A little bit of both, I think maybe. I think more Gase.
I don't know. That's a good point.
So the reason I brought this up was because if you value some of these running backs ahead of one or the other of the quarterbacks, you're talking about this is even though he was taken at what was it? He was taken at 12th overall, so 1-4. To some people, this is the 102. And do you think Mike getting 9 and 10 overall for the 102 is a good deal?
It depends who you think is there at 9 and 10. Because, so again, if you call it a 5-back class and you call it a 3-quarterback class and you call it a 3, 4, 5, again, everyone's got a different opinion on kind of what that receiver tier is. I'm getting 2 of those guys. So depends kind of where you kind of draw the line on that.
Yeah, and I mean, do you think Herbert will still be there? Or you think you have a shot at him? It seems reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, we were in another 32-team single copy league where Herbert made it to 16.
Yep.
And so, with all this talk about running back and quarterback, is it any shock to you guys that we play in a dynasty format where you only need to start one running back? Receivers are proven to have longer lives and more consistent lives in the NFL as, elite stars. Like, look what happened to Gurley. Like, he was elite. He's, Barkley Price. And all of a sudden now you can barely get a first for him.
Tell me about it. I've gone through that.
Why is this dynasty community drafting 4 running backs before the first receiver in a talented receiver class?
So let me jump in on this one. First off, people have been waiting for this running back class like people were waiting for the 2014 receiver class. So let's not talk about this like we're surprised that these running backs are such hot commodities. Second, and I'm probably going to be unpopular with this, I don't see a generational or 5-star receiver prospect in this class. I don't. I think that there are close, but I don't think there's one that says, okay, this is a no-brainer. This is the guy in this class. I mean, you can literally poke holes on any of them. And with that in mind, I'd rather, and you're going to see me, continue to double, triple, quadruple down on running backs until I can't, because I can make a very easy case, except for maybe one of them, that they're extremely talented players who landed in very good spots. Now, shorter shelf life, but you look at kind of where the dynasty community is, you need these running backs if you're going to have a chance of competing.
I think it's another combination as well of there's 4 or 5 receivers and all of them do different things well. There's no obvious whoever Sammy Watkins or you're the best running receiver prospect we've seen in a while or whoever. It reminds me of a better version of was it 2017 when there were three receivers out there and none of them ever amounted to anything, but everyone thought they picked the right guy.
Right. And
meanwhile, Michael Thomas is sitting there at 10th overall or whatever it was.
Yeah, and there has been a history a bit, after that 2014 class, the receivers have not done well, especially the ones that have gone in the first round. But I guess another thing that contributes to your and Mike's point is that none of the receivers got outstanding spots. They got drafted into receiver corps that are already strong. You look at Judy, who went to Denver, where Sutton already is. And you look at the Cowboys who drafted Lamb, where they already have Cooper and Michael Gallup up and coming. And you go down the line. Jefferson has Thielen to compete with, but he'll probably be the receiver too. Rieger's got the Eagles, who are just a giant mess, in my opinion. And you just go down the line, and there's a lot of crowded receiver corps where they're not gonna be the number one receiver unless they really shine. And with receivers, you don't really see it until the second or third year.
Can you mute Erik? He keeps naming players who haven't been drafted yet.
This is a podcast. We're allowed to discuss the receiver class of this draft. I didn't point anyone out specifically.
No, so again, I'm sorry, I don't want to jump in on anybody who hasn't talked yet, but look, like I said, I think that these are, I don't think there's a no shit, like, I don't see a Julio Jones. I don't see a Calvin Johnson. I don't see a no shit, oh my God, this guy, like, barring, like, drug issues, is going to be a star. That said, I think Lamb fits he fits the Adams role in the Mike McCarthy offense. So I think that's a great spot for him. Cooper slides into the Cobb role. I think that he is a great spot there, but the problem is because there are 3 receivers and because it's inconsistent and we're not playing best ball, it's a problem. I think Rieger, like you said, these guys usually can take a year or two. He's going to see volume, but if we're talking about the stretch role, that's probably Deshaun Jackson right now. Until he leaves, that's probably his job. You talk to guys who stepped right in day one, Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, like, how strong are those passing offenses? Like, are they going to get over 400 attempts this year? Hopefully. If the offensive coordinators have their druthers, probably not. Then Judy slides in behind potentially an alpha in Cortland Sutton, so you're getting a potential number 2, or maybe hopefully 1A, 1 and B, but are we talking Drew Lock's really going to support 2 number 1 receivers? And then, again, this starts getting shady really quick. Granted, I've just probably traded for 2 of these guys for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, so I'm talking bad about them, but I also just traded for 2 of them, so I don't want to be talking about both sides of my mouth. I like the talent. I like who they are, but at the same time, we can't talk about these guys being slam dunk. Like Fred said, this could very easily be 2017 again, where Rieger is our new Josh Doxson, where it's like, oh my God, he's going to completely just feast in Philadelphia. He's the obvious number 1 there. And, 4 years later, be like, he's on the Jets now? We could completely say that Denzel Mims has a unblocked path to number 1, and then say, wait a second, what happened to Corey Coleman? He was given the number 1 in Cleveland. So again, I'm taking the easy way out by using the same players for the same schools, but again, no one's a slam dunk, especially at this point in the draft, and there's going to be 2 or 3 of these guys that at least that we come back in 5 years and say, the fuck were we thinking taking these guys this high?
I agree. I want to jump in real quick because I really need to go to the bathroom. So I want to get this out. You hit him on division a lot. I mean, I'm a Giant fan, so I think CeeDee Lamb is probably. I think he'll be number 1 at the end of this year. I think so, and that's just why I think. Which sucks. I mean, I hate the fact that it happened. I can't believe it. Going on Rieger. I think Rieger is just a. I thought it was a bad pick at the time. I think the Eagles needed that receiver. I think he was maybe a mistake. But I agree with you in the fact that there are maybe a lot of receivers who were very overrated this year. There were a lot of teams that really needed a receiver, needed that depth, needed something to really get their offense going. As far as Judy and Sutton, in my opinion, I'm not a big Sutton guy. I'm sorry. I know you tried the world for Sutton before, but
Cool world. Too late first.
I totally agree with you, Mike. I do agree. There was a lot of hype here that can really fall back into the place. There were a lot of receivers drafted in the second and third round who had a first round grade. You're looking at here and going, who's this? I do agree with you, and I'll be right back.
Enjoy.
Okay, so yeah, it's an interesting discussion, and I think part of the receivers not being as cut and dry as they could be, but the recency bias of receivers not performing well, especially those drafted in the first round, it leads to these running backs going earlier because they've found value more consistently recently, and that's why I think they're going earlier. And plus, like you said, Mike, I don't want to discredit what you said. It's an awesome running back class too, probably one of the best we've seen in a while.
Well, I think there's what Mike was saying is true, but people I think still have it in their heads that some of the guys that were going to be in this running class and weren't there were still there. So it's still a great running back class, but two of the top 4 guys went back to school.
That's true. So the Clemson running back Etienne and who else?
Hubbard,
yeah.
Hubbard.
I wouldn't say top 4, but for Hubbard, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay, so we talked about the receivers, we talked about the trades, and we talked about the draft up until Matt, who stepped away. You probably haven't heard him in a little bit. He's on the clock now. So
no, he just picked actually.
Oh, who did he pick, Mike?
Dobbins.
Chalk.
Okay, so yeah, the second copy of Dobbins goes, which leaves Justin with a third copy, which he's going to probably hold overnight.
I was going to say, I mean, he has an opportunity to sell a third copy, so I would expect that, knowing Justin, he's going to try and make sure he gets max value for that pick or takes the guy he wants.
Yeah, and even, I mean, he'll probably hold it to see if someone's a little over eager, but I don't see him not taking the third copy of a guy here, even if he likes Swift more. I think he would trade back if he really liked Swift more.
I don't know. I think he has his board. I think he's going to make sure he takes advantage of the fact that it is a third copy here to see if someone wants to move up. But I think he has his opinion of where these guys slot. And if Dobbins isn't that guy, he's just going to take his guy. Because, look, I mean, I'll say it now that we're past the point. At 4, I was really debating between Burrow and Taylor because I love Jonathan Taylor. There's anyone who's in any league with me knows that. I think I might have Taylor as my most owned player coming out of this, and that's on purpose because I've had a man crush on Taylor for 2 years. So let's not get it twisted. Like that was my debate here. So Justin knows that, so that's probably part of why he took Taylor at 105 because he also likes somebody also knows that if I didn't get him at 10, he was going to be able to hold him over me, and that's just part of the game theory with this. So Justin's a fantastic, owner in terms of game theory. So he's going to make sure he takes who he's going to take to be able to hold it over somebody.
I think you need to stop blowing smoke up his ass. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Just rank amateur.
So we've discussed everything I wanted to talk about. We'll start with you, Fred. Anything else that we need to discuss here?
No, I just think this is now my 4th rookie draft for the year, and this is the first one where I did not get one of the top 2 quarterbacks. My teams were pretty much shite across the board last year, and I set myself up to be able to take advantage of a deep draft to fix some of the problems that I have on all of my teams. But we'll see how it goes. And the funny thing is that coming out of our startup draft, I would have thought that this was the single team that was poised to have the highest draft picks based on the trades and number of picks that I had. Turns out I didn't get one until my own at 107, and every one of the other ones I traded for were lower than that.
Yeah, and it's funny. I could agree with you there, Fred. I did a rebuild, but then I kind of traded for some shit QBs late just to make that last push because I had some guys that blew up, and I was like, wait, I ended up with 117, and I didn't take any players in the startup of the first 5 rounds. I might have took one. Like, what? And so I think some people definitely overextended, which left us rebuilders with so much value underneath where we weren't the worst team somehow. Well, maybe Mike, but Mike literally didn't have any players, so he made sure of it.
Yeah,
go ahead, Fred.
But every single one of the picks that he acquired ended up being just gold. Just great trades, or sheer luck on his part, whichever it may be.
I mean, I did end up with the league champion pick, so I got some good ones, and I also got some bad ones.
I think you ended up having the most first-round picks coming out of our startup or out of the season, right?
No, I think actually you and
Eric,
had 5. You and Eric outpaced me, but then I think you guys gave us back.
Eric, how many did you have?
I had 9.
Insane.
I had 9, but I've traded 7 away, and I've acquired Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, Deebo Samuel. Yeah.
It seems to be a good use of capital.
Yeah. So, Bill, anything you want to say before we wrap things up here?
Yeah, 2 things. 2 things quick. I just want to touch on, I didn't have a chance to before. I loved Mike's 3 picks. I love it. Fantastic. Especially running backs, the E-grad, man. That's awesome. Even if you don't believe in CEH, which I don't believe you should have said that much on this podcast, it might hurt your trade value. But I think
he's already traded him away.
I'm sorry?
He's already traded him away.
Yes. Shows what I know.
Yep.
Regardless, though, I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic. I really thought that was very, very well done. Just wanted to let you know that. I am disappointed that you unliked my thing calling Matt an asshole before. I did want to bring that up. Couldn't believe it. Besides that, anyone listen to the podcast, and you 3 as well. I obviously am very interested in Justin Herbert, and I do need a quarterback.
I have a pick coming up, so.
Do you now? Anyway, I am a pain in the ass to trade with. I will say that, but I am very interested in getting in there.
He's also a pain in the ass in general, not just in trading.
Yes, and Eric's being nice.
All right, Bill. So trade Bill your first. Just be ready for a fight because he sucks. Mike, anything else you want to say before we start wrapping things up here?
No. Again, sorry for being late, and I always appreciate being on. But anyone who wants to get rid of their first, let me know.
And Eric, just wanted to say one more time, thank you for having me on. This is great. I'm very happy it's back.
Yeah, sure. Let's do this again sometime.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping because we have this draft ongoing, maybe we could do one this week because when we have more news to talk about and picks and trades, it provide us with more content. But we've already almost run out of the trades from the past few days where things finally picked up, and then the draft, which it was a slow first day, but I think Evan being on a different clock than the rest of the world really slowed it down more than anything. So it should be quicker tomorrow.
Yeah, by the end of the week, or Thursday-ish or so, we could do a first-round wrap-up, something like that, or do it next week when we're done with the first couple of rounds.
It has been an entire day, and we're still on pick 4. So.
Oh, 104, but yeah. So I just want to conclude things by thanking you guys for listening. It's always a pleasure to do this. And please be aware that there's going to be some changes coming up. Matt and I have been discussing these behind closed doors. They're mostly positive changes. A lot of things that we're going to institute because it doesn't hurt anyone. So we'll be announcing those as the draft goes on. We do have a rule proposal that's going to be going with the draft. I totally forget what it is, but Matt and I discussed it. So it will be coming shortly. So please stay tuned and group me an email and whoever else you listen to about this league. And we're going to make sure this goes great. But all in all, I'm excited. I'm glad that the activity finally picked up, and I think we're all in all for a good season. So that's going to be it from all of us. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you later in the week or early next week.